HOA Karen, a break-in, a pantry disaster, and my 95-pound ex-police K9 named Bear stealing the show. Let's dive in. It was a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind where the air smells like fresh hay, and the only sound is the soft clucking of my chickens. I was out back checking on my horses when I heard it, a knock so aggressive it could wake a hibernating bear. Not a polite tap-tap, mind you, but a bim-bim-bim that rattled my front gate like someone was trying to audition for a demolition crew. I grabbed my hat, dusted off my boots, and headed to the gate, where I was met with a sight I'll never forget. There she stood, Karen Cho, the self-proclaimed queen of the local HOA. Picture a platinum blonde bob so sharp it could cut glass, fire truck red lipstick smeared like she applied it during an earthquake, and a snarl that could make a rattlesnake rethink its life choices. She was clutching a clipboard like it was the Constitution itself, squinting through the bars of my gate like she was inspecting a crime scene. "This area," she barked, jabbing a manicured finger at my sprawling ranch, "is not up to HOA code." I leaned against the gate, tipping my hat back, and let out a chuckle. "Ma'am, with all due respect, the HOA doesn't own a single speck of dirt out here. This is my land, 100 acres of it, and it's zoned agricultural. Your rules don't apply." Her eyes narrowed into slits, and she hissed, "We'll see about that." That's when I knew this wasn't just a one-off visit. This was war. Fast forward 2 days. I've been out on a feed run, hauling bags of grain for my horses and chickens. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, when I pulled up to my gate and froze. It was wide open, not just unlatched, but swinging in the breeze like it had been kicked in. My stomach dropped. My horses were pacing nervously in their paddock, whinnying like they'd seen a ghost. My chickens were squawking like the apocalypse had hit, feathers flying everywhere. And my front door cracked open, just enough to send a chill down my spine. I pulled out my phone and opened my security camera app, my heart pounding like a drum. The footage loaded, and there she was, Karen Cho, sneaking around my barn like she was on a covert mission for National Geographic. She had gloves on gloves, a flashlight in one hand, and the most ridiculous sneaky walk I've ever seen, like a cartoon villain tiptoeing through a haunted house. For a split second, I wondered if she was high. Nope, just AOA level entitled. She poked her head into my tack room, rifled through a stack of hay bales, and even had the audacity to shine her flashlight into my tractor's engine compartment. What was she looking for? Evidence of code violations? A secret meth lab? Who knows? But she was about to meet someone who didn't take kindly to trespassers. Now, let me introduce you to Bear, my German Shepherd. This 95-pound beast is a retired police canine who helped take down a drug ring in Texas before I adopted him 2 years ago. He's got the soul of a predator, the loyalty of a best friend, and a knack for treating trespassing like an Olympic sport. Bear doesn't bark unless he means it, and when he locks onto a target, it's game over. As Karen made her way from the barn to my house, yep, she broke in, Bear caught her scent. The cameras caught it all. She tiptoed into my kitchen, probably dreaming of slapping me with citations for unapproved spice rack organization. She was reaching for my jar of paprika. Paprika, of all things, when she heard it, a low, guttural rumble that could make your bones vibrate. She froze, her hand hovering midair, and slowly turned around. There stood Bear, all sleek fur and raw authority, his teeth slightly bared, his tail stiff as a board. No bark, no lunge, just pure, silent menace. Karen let out a scream so shrill it could have shattered my grandmother's china. She bolted for the back door, but in her panic, she slipped on a floor mat and crashed face first into my pantry shelf. Cans of tomatoes, pinto beans, and chili came raining down like a grocery store apocalypse. Bear didn't move. He just stood over her, barking with the precision of a drill sergeant, loud enough to rattle the window frames but controlled enough not to bite. That dog has more restraint than I'll ever have. I was parked just outside, watching the whole thing unfold on my phone like it was a pay-per-view special. I took a sip of my cold soda, grinning as Karen Army crawled through a pile of canned goods, her pristine white blouse now smeared with tomato paste like she'd been baptized in chili. The camera in the corner blinked red, recording every glorious second. I decided it was time to make my entrance. I strolled through the back door, phone still rolling, and leaned against the counter. Well, if it isn't the HOA's self-declared FBI, I said, crossing my arms. Karen, gasping and disoriented, stammered, "I thought someone was in danger." Her face was buried in a pile of pinto beans, and she looked like she just lost a fight with a spaghetti sauce monster. I chuckled. Yeah, Bear thought you were the danger. She tried to stand, but Bear let out one sharp growl, and she froze like a cartoon character mid-step. I gave the command, Bear heel. He backed off instantly, tail wagging like he just won best in show. Karen looked up at me, tomato pulp dripping from her hair, and had the nerve to say, "You're going to be in serious trouble for this." I raised an eyebrow. I'm going to be in trouble. For what? You trespassing, breaking, and entering, scaring my livestock, and getting your HOA fingerprints all over my spice rack? That's when her tone shifted from shock to smug. You're part of the HOA district whether you like it or not, she hissed. You signed a clause. This land is technically under oversight. Technically was doing some heavy lifting there. I walked over to my desk, pulled out a laminated, notarized copy of my deed, and tossed it at her feet. Read the small print at the bottom, I said. She squinted, her face collapsing with every word. The deed clearly stated my land was zoned agricultural and exempt from HOA control. Yep, I grinned. I'm the loophole your HOA hates. I'm not just off the grid. I own the grid out here. Karen scrambled to her feet, yanking out her phone and dialing someone. Probably her attorney, her HOA cronies, or the neighborhood gossip chain. You're done, she hissed. This is harassment. Your dog is a menace. I'm going to sue. I leaned against the counter, sipping my soda. Good luck with that. You might want to get the canned beans out of your ears before you testify. Then came the cherry on top. Bear, as if he'd been waiting for his moment, sauntered over to Karen's designer handbag, some overpriced Louis Vuitton nonsense she dropped in her panic, and lifted his leg. A golden stream hit the bag like it was a fire hydrant. Karen screamed like she just witnessed a murder. This is a Louis Vuitton, you savage, she shrieked, scooping up the bag like it was a wounded child. I tilted my head. Did Louis design it to hold dog pee? Because that's a nice added feature. Bear wagged his tail like he just won a trophy. Karen stormed out the door, but not before slipping on a trail of horse feed and falling face first into my rose garden. Those thorns? They don't play nice. She flailed, cursing, as she tried to untangle herself from the prickly branches. I didn't bother helping her up. Instead, I turned to my camera setup and downloaded the footage, backing it up to a cloud server, 2 flash drives, and my lawyer's email. Every second of her break-in was now immortalized. Karen, covered in dirt and tomato paste, scrambled to her feet, yelling legal threats like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. You'll hear from my attorney. I have power in this neighborhood. This isn't a neighborhood, I said, popping open another soda. It's a ranch. There are more cows than humans out here. The only thing you have power over is your own delusion. She stomped off, screaming into her phone, demanding someone get out here now. 10 minutes later, a black SUV with a magnetic HOA security sticker pulled up, driven by a guy who looked like he'd flunked out of mall cop school. He stepped out, puffed his chest, and said, "We had reports of aggressive animals and illegal property modifications." I smirked. "Oh, you mean Bear. He's registered, trained, and lives here. As for modifications, everything you see is legal. But your friend here broke into my home. That's a felony, by the way." Karen pointed at me like she was calling in an airstrike. "He attacked me," she screamed. I laughed so hard I nearly fell over. I wasn't even here, and my camera footage says otherwise. Want to see her roll in my pantry like a toddler in a bounce house? The fake cop hesitated. Karen hissed, "Don't listen to him. He's a manipulator." Bear growled once, and the guy immediately backed toward his SUV. "This is above my pay grade," he muttered, peeling out and leaving Karen in the dust. Karen stood alone on my gravel driveway, mud on her knees, hair in full scarecrow mode, screaming into the wind like it owed her something. "You'll regret this. You think this is over." I leaned against the fence, sipping my soda. "No, Karen, you should have thought this through. This ain't suburbia. This is my land." She stormed back toward my porch like she had unfinished business, but Bear was already there, sitting like a furry bouncer. She froze, shaking, then turned to run, only to trip on the same damn mat from earlier. Boom. Face first into the dirt. And then, like a gift from the heavens, my automatic sprinklers kicked on, full pressure, right in her face. She flailed in my front yard like a soaked cat, screaming as the water blasted her. My phone buzzed. It was the sheriff's department. Got your email, the deputy said. Footage is crystal clear. Want us to press trespassing and breaking and entering charges. Yes, I said, and tell them to bring a towel. 15 minutes later, a squad car rolled up. Karen tried to play the victim the moment they stepped out. He locked me in. He set his dog on me. I was trying to protect the community. The deputy didn't even blink. Ma'am, you entered a private residence without permission. You were recorded the entire time, and the dog never touched you. The only thing that attacked you was a can of baked beans. Karen's face dropped harder than her broken heels. She turned to me, spitting venom. You're evil. You manipulated everything. I held up the flash drive. No, Karen, you did this to yourself. The HOA doesn't run this ranch. The only code out here is don't cross me. As the officers cuffed her, she screamed, This isn't over. I know people. One deputy chuckled. You should have known better than to mess with a rancher and his dog. They stuffed her in the back seat while Bear gave her one last bark farewell. The door slammed, and peace returned to my land. And that, folks, is how you deal with an HOA Karen who thinks she can invade your land and get away with it. Bear's the real MVP here, and I'm just glad I had those cameras rolling. If you love this story, drop a like, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Do you think Karen got what she deserved? Have you ever dealt with an HOA nightmare? Share your stories below. I read every single one. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight and never let a Karen mess with your peace. This is the Comeback Stories signing off.